This trope needs to be killed with fire. It needs to be chewed up and torn apart by 1,000 rabid dogs, and then those dogs need to defecate, and then a tornado needs to come and carry away any remains of this trope. Okay, no, but in all seriousness, from what I can tell, this seems to be one of the most hated tropes in the booktube community. So today we're going to look into the different types of love triangles and why they've gotten such a bad name. But first, let's define it. What is a love triangle? It is a romantic relationship involving 3 people, and for today's purposes, because we are looking at it in the context of fiction, we'll be focusing on stories where the love triangle plays an integral part in the story. So we're going to start out today by looking at a few different structures that love triangles follow, or what I like to call sub-tropes. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say a quick hello and thank you to all of the new subscribers. There are over 3,000 of you now. I was away for the past 5 weeks volunteering in Indonesia, and so this kind of came as a complete shock because I wasn't posting. So I don't know how you found me, but I'm very glad you did, and thank you for all of the amazing comments and recommendations that I've received from you guys in the comment section. I can't wait to produce more content now that I'm home and continue these discussions with you, so make sure to continue to comment because I really appreciate all that you guys are saying. But that's all. Besides a quick little note that there is construction going on next door, so I apologize for any noises that you are hearing. I think that's everything though, so now let's dive into the video. It's hot in here, so I'm just gonna roll up my sleeves. So number one that we're gonna dive into today is the choosing between two worlds sub-trope. In this situation, the 2 romantic interests come from vastly different backgrounds and serve not only to represent themselves, but also the worlds that they come from. These backgrounds could be anything from social class to paranormal, but it also means that the protagonist has to choose not only which partner she wants, but which world she wants to be a part of. A clear example of this is Twilight, where Bella must choose between Edward and Jacob, but also between the vampires and werewolves. The vampires are cold, mysterious, and reserved, where the werewolves are passionate, warm, and familial. Bella then has to choose what kind of life she can see herself in, as well as who she wants to be with. But she chose wrong, hashtag Team Jacob forever. Another example is in The Notebook, where Allie has to choose between Noah and Lon Hammond, but also between the comfort and stability that Lon can provide versus the passion and instability of Noah. Unlike Twilight, this isn't a balanced love triangle. We know who Allie will choose, and Lon only serves as a potential roadblock to their love. But it's an example of the trope nonetheless, and we will get more into that later. Similarly to this, another example is Rose, Jack, and Cal from Titanic. Number 2 is very close to the first and can go hand in hand with it, though I like to classify them separately. This is the choosing between two selves sub-trope. While this sub-trope often fits into the first one, it can definitely be its own thing. In this version of the trope, the 2 suitors are vastly different, so when the protagonist must choose between them, they're also choosing between the 2 versions of themselves that they are in these relationships. Examples of this are again The Notebook, but also The Hunger Games, where Katniss has to choose between Gale, with whom she's comfortable and safe, and Peeta, who seems to balance out her flaws. Right, now let's move on to number 3. The change of heart trope is another popular setup in love triangles, especially in film. In this, the protagonist believes that they should be with someone, but ends up falling for someone completely different by the end of the story. Examples of this are Sabrina, where Audrey Hepburn's character Sabrina pines over David, the rich son of her father's employer, who's handsome and charming, but slowly she falls in love with Linus, his older brother, in the process. A similar example is While You Were Sleeping, where Sandra Bullock's character Lucy pines over Peter, an attractive and successful man, but while he's in a coma and she pretends to be his fiancée, she falls in love with his brother. Coming back to the roadblock, which I mentioned above, but we have number 4, whose purpose is to create tension and drama and also provide an obstacle for the main relationship in the story. An example of this is in The Princess Bride, where Prince Humperdinck actively separates Buttercup and Wesley so that he can have Buttercup to himself. A less active example is in The Notebook, where Lon's presence and what he can offer Allie are enticing enough to create separation between Allie and Noah. And lastly, this final one can tie into all of the above and often does. In fact, it's so ingrained into how we think of love triangles that sometimes it's hard to separate. And of course, I am talking about the outgoing, passionate bad one versus the comfortable, dependable BFF. Generally, the passionate one is charming, witty, and incredibly attractive, while the best friend is often more serious, protective, and loyal, and can be counted on in a pinch. Examples of this trope are widespread and include Twilight, The Hunger Games, Throne of Glass, Pretty in Pink, the Archie comics, The Vampire Diaries, and so so many more. So now that we've looked at some of the different types of love triangles, let's look at why in recent years they've been regarded so poorly. You may have found that you actually enjoy some of the stories that I mentioned above. I surely do. But recently, if you go on pretty much anyone's tropes that I hate videos, you're gonna find love triangles in it, if not topping the list. In fact, in general, I'd say that I hate love triangles too. So why is that? Well, to start it off mildly, it often follows similar patterns as I've just shown you. Love triangles to me feel overused and unoriginal for the most part, and I haven't seen the trope being handled with much innovation or creativity in the last decade. If you watch my channel, you know that I'm not a fan of lazy storytelling, especially when it comes to stories employing overused cliches instead of adding something new, interesting, and creative. But this is not the love triangle's worst offense. A byproduct of the recent love triangle or square or hexagon is that the protagonist, in order to be suited to more than one romantic interest, oh, who am I kidding? In order to have compatibility with different men, has to be boring and vanilla herself. I like to call this the Bella. To make room for all the vastly different personalities that the men are given, the protagonist's personality is stripped away. But it's fine, guys, you can just self-insert, right? I hate this for a multitude of reasons, but mostly because it makes bland protagonists that are incredibly hard to root for and relate to. It also means that she has to be beautiful, as what she lacks in personality, she makes up for in general babeness. The final reason, though, is that they're a bit illogical. I find that I have a hard time getting into or rooting for love triangles that are set in contemporary worlds. It's a lot easier to picture the sweeping romances set in the times of Shakespeare or Jane Austen, including a love triangle, rather than in the present times, because you know, it's kind of cheating and really horrible to both parties in the relationship. I struggle to picture any guy or girl putting up with, or especially fighting for a relationship like this, when swiping right has kind of become the romantic currency. I don't believe romance is dead, but I also don't see this trope having much basis in reality. And that's where the creativity has to come through, because as always, there are exceptions. I thoroughly enjoyed the first Bridget Jones movie and adore While You Were Sleeping and Pretty in Pink, but the characters in these movies have strong personalities, and the story feels simultaneously genuine while not taking itself too seriously. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that recent love triangles have compromised originality, character, and logic for cheap and overused tropes and cliches. But what else is new? What I discovered while researching this video, though, was that there was actually a lot of love triangles that I liked. So, to end this off, I guess I'm gonna leave you with a really horrible metaphor. Get ready. Tropes are like knives. They're not inherently good or bad. It's how you choose to use them. And on that note, I think we will wrap up this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed. I'm so sorry for my absence, and thank you for sticking around despite me being away. Like I said, I was volunteering abroad, which was super amazing. This is the first video that I've actually inserted clips from movies and stuff, so if you like that, let me know down below. If you don't like it, let me know, and judging by your response, I will either include that or not in future videos. Let me know your thoughts down below on love triangles, and if there's anything that you'd like to add, maybe something that I missed. But yeah, I think that's everything. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.